I refuse saying prop gun just because I will say airsoft, I'll say replica, I'll say rubber, or
Yeah.
I'll say real firearm, but too many people generalize everything as a prop gun.
Mm.
And now if everybody respected the word prop gun to always assume it's a real firearm, that's cool, but these aren't gun people we're talking about. So you have to be very specific with them to not build complacency. And like that was probably a big contributing factor at Rust because they've always been on set where no accidents have happened.
Yeah.
And they've always done stunts with rubber guns, or they've had the replicas, or they've had an empty rail gun, and it's just kind of become an item that you need to hire a special person to touch.
Yeah.
But since they were so used to it, somebody just picked it up and handed it to Alec, and boom, there you go. You have an issue.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and B.R. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art and War podcast, where we don't beat our wives, unlike some certain people. Today we have Matt Czarnowsky. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Who also doesn't beat his wife.
Hello, I also do not beat my wife because I don't have one.
But
yeah,
but if
me.
you did, would you?
Podcast over. Thanks, guys.
Well,
Glad we got that out of the way.
Bathroom.
Yeah, she's not going to do anything right now. But yeah, other than that, I'm the previously mentioned Matt Czarnowsky. I do guns and props for Hollywood, filmed in Georgia, Hollywood movies, TV shows, music videos, stuff like that.
Quite a few. Dude, you sent me your CV yesterday, and we've been talking for a couple years. I knew a lot of this. I knew about Avengers and, Civil War, which we've talked about in the show before, and a bunch of stuff. But holy shit, your CV is very long. Tell us some of the cooler ones, other than the Tomorrow War. You probably shouldn't take any credit for that.
Yeah, Tomorrow War. I'll take credit for it because we used real guns on it. They didn't wimp out on it, but I'm not going to take any sort of claim for the Harris EQB furniture on it. It looks futuristic to people who don't know guns, so that's a thing. But I've done a few seasons of Stranger Things. Brandenburg, I think, was my first gun specific thing that I did back when I was doing a couple of seasons of Walking Dead in between there. Avengers Endgame, Stranger Things, Tomorrow War recently, Civil War, handful of little music videos, handful of days on different shows because not every show has guns every day. Couple seasons of Black Mafia Family for those who are into the gangster thing, but it's probably around 30 or 40 productions within the past 6 years.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Like Avengers, Walking Dead, Black Widow with
Black Widow
Bad
movie.
Boys.
Yep, Bad Boys. Yep, that was another one. Our first day filming on Bad Boys, we had 2 helicopters flying around Midtown Atlanta, and it was one of the it's my job sort of moments. You don't expect to do that on your first day of work.
God, it's going to be one of those jobs where there's never a dull day, for better and worse.
For the gun days, no. There are dull days. Sadly, as cool as it is, there are very dull days because the guns are usually the last thought for a majority of productions. Like Bad Boys or Tomorrow War or Civil War, they're pretty prominent. But legally standing, somebody with a firearms concealed carry license here in Georgia, or somebody who's on the FFL with one of the places I work with, they have to be present whenever the firearm's present. So if it's just an officer pulling a gun from his holster to point it at somebody, they want to have an armorer there. And they'll usually shoot the entire day's worth of work beforehand. So you exist somewhere with too many snacks for 12 to 14 hours. And then it's, okay, guys, let's get the shot. Let's get out of here. Let's go home. I'm like, excuse me, let me tell everybody and show you that it's empty real quick before we do anything. But the fun days there, the fun days are very fun. Those are always memorable.
I'm no stranger to working in film, doing 15-hour days, basically picking my ass and waiting for stuff. It's still somehow very exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fighting off people that want to ask questions about guns is also very exhausting on set.
like, oh yeah, the armorer probably wants to make small talk, so I'm just gonna ask like endless gun questions kind of deal, or what?
Oh yeah, you get a bit of everybody. There's always the people who are like the grips who set up all the big stands, or the electricians, or like the teamsters who do the driving, that are more right leaning than left leaning without being too political. And they're like, "Oh man, I got all these cool guns at the house and everything." And I'm like, "Cool, let me see." And it's a picture of a Taurus G2C and a We the People holster. And you tell
At
them it's
least
a
he
great
has a
job.
holster.
And yeah, at least he has a holster or an Uncle Mike soft holster. Either way, at least they're doing something and they're trying.
Yeah.
Get after it.
There are a
Everyone starts
handful.
somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a handful that are pretty rough. There are a few people when you start talking to stunt people who are like, "Oh yeah, I've got a couple of those CACs." And you're like, "CACs?" And you're like, "Yeah, the KAC ones, whatever those are." I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, CAC, yeah. You've got one of those rifles."
Yeah, I forgot that stunt people actually make fairly good money. If they don't get
Oh
a
yeah.
traumatic brain injury or lose a limb.
Yeah. Normal day for them is $1,000 for showing up. So I'm not going to complain about them. I love all my stunt guys. They're super cool.
Yeah.
But then you also get the people like the far left end of the spectrum who are anti-gun, anti-hunting, and they'll come over and be like, "Man, these things they should really be illegal, shouldn't they?" I was like,
No.
"No, no, it's not a machine gun, so it's got no problem." Like, these, they use these things for hunting in Africa, right? For poaching. I was like, "Well, do you know that hunting in Africa actually helps out the tribes and helps increase the population of the animals over there?" Like, "No, it doesn't." Then you explain the pay for hunting and getting rid of the old animals that are just fighting off the younger actual breeding age ones. And they're like, "Oh, well, I guess that makes sense." It's like, yeah, so Papa John's a kind of cool guy now then, isn't he? And it's a conversation. It's just about every single production. Once you go through it once with everybody who's going to ask a question, then it can flow pretty normally. Then you don't have to deal with it again for at least the next week.
That's just kind of like a required part of your job almost, just kind of like getting through the, hey, I'm the armorer. Okay, can I do my job now? Kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And it's usually beginning of the day, there's a safety meeting every single day. And if it's my first day on whatever production I'm going to, because like I said, not every show has guns, but every show has props. So the prop department's always there. Sometimes I'll work with them. Sometimes I come in just for the gun stuff. So whatever my first day is there, it's always a safety meeting in the morning. "Hey, everybody, I'm Matt. I'm the armor. We won't be doing my stuff until a later scene. But if anybody has any questions at the beginning of the day, please come see me and I'll answer whatever I can, because whenever you're educated and you're knowledgeable on set, it just makes everything flow easier. It's less people asking questions, slowing us down when we get to it. It's less people freaking out. People are more comfortable around it, and it works better."
That's
So-
really interesting. Yeah.
Kind of jumping into something our Discord brought up with you last night, nice and early. Did the tone of how these safety meetings and kind of your general presence on set change after the Rust incident?
Oh, yes. So I was at that time I was working on a movie called Till, which is about the lynching of the kid Emmett Till back in like 1955, I believe.
Yeah.
Movie came out like a year and a half ago or something like that. And the day after the Rust incident, we actually had a scene with somebody pointing a revolver at one of the other characters.
Oh fuck.
So
Geez, look at
as
that
far
time.
as like bad timing goes, we were jumping right into exactly what happened on the Rust incident. And I know a good bit about what happened there. I still haven't read any court transcripts. Everything's hearsay a bit. But at the time, nobody knew. It was somebody got shot. It was a Wild West movie, so it was most likely a revolver. And it went from most safety meetings. We'll do like a secondary safety meeting right before the scene, regardless, where it used to be, okay, the director was there, the assistant director who technically runs the set, the actor, and like one producer and one of the keys from like the grip department. But then that day it was the entire crew was there, and it was, okay, and now we know there was this incident yesterday. Does anybody have any questions? We can help do this. And not to throw the prop master I was working with under the bus on that day, but he's a California-based gun guy,
Mm.
but also a very fuddy sort of mindset. His daily carry was the 2-barrel Derringer
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
one of
sort of things,
those.
But he does
but it was a
carry,
45
which...
long Colt. No, I won't say carry. His vehicular door
Oh.
carrying was
There is a gun
a
nearby
40.
sometimes.
So like that was his vehicular door carry. And okay, cool. It was in a nylon holster in his door. He was a gun guy, but he never got past the FUD stages and past the California version of it. So I still had a lot of people coming to me after that. But the tone definitely changed, which I hate to say that complacency had been built up before that, but people did not care 4 years ago. When I first started doing the armor stuff in 2016, 2017, people it wasn't the top of their priority list.
Yeah.
But after this, it was everybody was there. The assistant director's sitting there looking at everything you do, and then he calls every single person to come through. And I mean, 50, 60 people looking at one gun before we shoot, not speeding anything up, and it actually makes it a bit more dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, more
they
touches
don't
rather
have
than
hands
a
on it.
few. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, if you don't know what the gun is, if you don't know how the gun works, you looking at it's not going to change something. You looking at it's not going to change. Okay, cool. You have a firearms expert here. You have people who have been trained to look for whatever the gun thing is. But the head costumer is not going to notice the difference if there's a round in the chamber or not. So I always tell people, it's like, cool, if you're relevant to the shot, feel free to come up and look at it. Or if you just are freaking out, feel free to come up and look at it. But if not, send whoever your department head is or somebody who you trust, or listen to people who you trust. You know, we start putting 50 people around it, and that's when incidents start happening, just because people are less likely to pay attention. Even though I'm holding it the entire time, you know, somebody wants to grab it and look at it, and then it's okay, cool, there is another set of hands on it, let me go through it again.
Yeah.
But the tone definitely changed after Rust. And there were so many weird things that happened about that where it's like, it shouldn't have happened. There's a million times that should have been prevented, but it just didn't.
I remember back in the day, because again, used to moonlight doing this stuff more in like indie and stage production, but like what was a union member back in Canada, and this isn't a great comparison, but I remember the attitude, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. One thing that jumps to my mind is one of the actors just taking a rifle off of a props table and just leaving, just going outside and having a smoke. And that was a failure on behalf of everyone that should have taken ownership of the props. But like that could have ended very, very badly.
Yeah, I got over my fear of yelling at people on my first ever production where I was the actual armor. And I was standing next to a table I had set up with just like 2 hunting rifles. We weren't running blanks. We didn't even have any dummy rounds, since it was just them carrying it. And of course, nobody makes a good airsoft Remington 700 wood stock, because kids don't want to play airsoft with that. So we got to have the real ones. And they're sitting on a table right next to where I'm talking to either the prop master, somebody, me and him are talking, and a producer walks over and he's like, man, this thing looks pretty cool. And he picks it up and he just starts kind of scoping around throughout the woods where we were shooting, and had to turn around and take the rifle and yell at the producer on like my second or third ever day being the full-time armor on something. So I've gotten over that really quickly. I've threatened to walk off set before with firearms, because at the end of the day, I take full responsibility for it. And if you're going to do something stupid with it, I'll go home. They're legally in my name. What are you going to do? I'm not the one losing $250,000 of production in one day. It's not going to happen. It's not worth it.
Yeah, that. Oh, sorry.
My mind jumps to the Rust incident itself with Alec Baldwin, and I remember reading stories about how loose the handling of the guns on set
they had live
was.
rounds and they were plinking.
There were live rounds mixed in with blanks. People were shooting live rounds during lunch breaks, just at cans.
Yeah, so I'll go over that in depth mildly. So for the blanks to work, revolvers, bolt actions, lever actions, single shots, more or less there are never any modifications to the firearm, because they don't require the back pressure to cycle the weapon. One of the companies I work for calls the ones that require back pressure, handguns, ARs, whatever, energy weapons, just because they require that sort of energy. I just call it back pressure because that's how my brain works. Energy sounds too futuristic and scary for a lot of people, but people have heard back pressure before, whether it's in a car or whatever. But revolvers, they don't require any sort of barrel blockage or metering. We have a couple of different size blanks that we run: quarter flash, half flash, full flash, and then even solid plugs where we can run a completely solid barrel and still safely cycle without actually squib loading. But to put it in perspective for anybody who's ever used military blanks, those are what our quarter flash are. So we can actually load up to 4 times that much powder, or to what would be equivalent of 4 times much to get. So if you want to see flash from a half mile away when it's daytime outside, we'll run something like that.
So, quick question on that: the different loads. Does the different load? I mean, presumably that affects kind of like the range you can safely shoot at other actors with those, right?
True. General rule, 20 feet. But in every situation where we can, we'll always offset the shots.
Force perspective kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if we can't make it look right, then move the camera or move the actor. If you're a long way off, sure, you can shoot at somebody, but I'm talking like 100 feet before anybody really starts feeling safe, because any sort of barrel obstruction, piece of carbon, actor sets it down and a piece of dirt gets in there, a little pebble, that's still a projectile. You know,
yeah, my mind jumps to Brendan Lee.
Yep, which his was a weird thing where they had a dummy round that they had made, which for those that are unsure, dummy round, for like a revolver, or you want to see a magazine being loaded, we're not going to use real bullets. We have depowdered bullets. The primers were either completely stripped of any sort of propellant, or in the case of another place that I work with, they manufacture their own primer, so there was never any propellant ever in that dummy projectile. So they had made their own dummies, and when they were going around pulling the trigger, one of those projectiles that was stuffed in the end of the cartridge like it should be to look right, one of those primers hadn't completely emptied itself. So it kind of pushed that projectile just into the barrel, which then, once a real blank went behind it, it turned into an actual projectile. And that was his thing. So like a piece of dirt will do it. You know, if you're aiming at somebody's head, hits them in the temple, same thing, less bullet, but still something moving at 1,000 feet per second. But yeah, going back to what BR said, it's the size of the blank will determine how close we could be for most part. But we still have minimums that we do, and we always offset. The only time we do point directly at any sort of close thing would be using a solid plug, which we call a suicide plug, because it's put it to your head, pull the trigger, and it's safe to run. But even then, if we can get away without doing that, we will.
Yeah. Like this sounds like 1,000 times more of a nightmare than being an RSO in like an urban center gun range. Like you've got a bunch of people who are not necessarily familiar with guns, who are potentially even nervous around guns, who have to act like experts, and also like attend to basically choreographed fight scenes and get everything perfect while being safe around the guns. Like, good God.
Yeah, exactly. Because at least people at gun range, you know, they know it's a real gun.
Yeah.
And they respect the fact that it's a real gun. On a movie set, even though it is a real gun, it's a serialized firearm. The fully autos, the short barrels, SBRs, whatever that we use, they're all serialized and either non-transferable, and you have to be on the FFL to handle them, or to bring them to set and then let the actors run them underneath of you as the possessor from the FFL. Or if it's a transferable, you still have to be on that license, because they're not going to work on a Form 3 or Form 1 to get it to you, or Form 4, sorry. So, like, you have to be on the license, and they're just not, people don't realize, okay, cool, this is a real gun. They think, oh, prop gun.
Yeah.
Prop gun was a thing that I hated watching all the stuff come from Rust, because this prop gun incident happened. It was a real gun.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you, it was a real gun. Prop guns do exist. Prop guns are airsoft guns. They're rubber weapons. There's a few armors who try to say everything is a prop gun, but I see that as building complacency.
Yeah, and that must be a really hard line to walk as a professional, where like the terminology is a little confusing for one. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
if you're more of a gun guy, then you're not going to allow kind of lax words like energy weapons or prop gun for your actual functional firearms, or even presumably, your blank firing guns with a plug. Like, you would still consider like even a plugged firearm like a real gun, right? You wouldn't call that a prop gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I try to refuse. I refuse saying prop gun just because I will say airsoft, I'll say replica, I'll say rubber, or
Yeah.
I'll say real firearm. But too many people generalize everything as a prop gun.
Mm.
And now, if everybody respected the word prop gun to always assume it's a real firearm, that's cool. But these aren't gun people we're talking about. So you have to be very specific with them to not build complacency. And like that was probably a big contributing factor at Rust because they've always been on set where no accidents have happened.
Yeah.
And they've always done stunts with rubber guns, or they've had the replicas, or they've had an empty real gun, and it's just kind of become an item that you need to hire a special person to touch.
Yeah.
But since they were so used to it, somebody just picked it up and handed it to Alec, and boom, there you go. You have an issue.
Yeah. Do you think prior to this happening with Rust, do you think the industry at large had kind of grown somewhat complacent?
Oh, 100%. And I saw it a few times. And a bit you have to try to allow the creative vision from the directors to flow. Like there's things I'm not going to do myself if I was ever in that situation that I'll let the actor do because that's cool for the scene. There was one weird show I was working on. They needed the actor to like jump under the bottom rung of a boxing ring, do a tuck and roll, then pop up and shoot whoever was on the other side of the boxing ring.
Mm.
And I was like, y'all want to run blanks with this, right? When he does his tuck and roll, where's that gun pointing? It's pointing right at his chin.
Oh, Lord.
I was like, here, take the rubber and go do a few test rolls. And if the stunt coordinator sees it as being safe, and if I see it as being safe, then we could work something out. But at whenever he was doing it, sorry, no.
This week's episode is brought to you by Two Grunts Inc. Two Grunts Inc. is a veteran-owned and operated rifle manufacturer crafting firearms with professionals and prepared citizens in mind. All of their parts and components are developed, tested, and manufactured to perform using the most standard of mil-spec 5.56 ammunition. Purpose-built work guns is their motto, and rifles made to last is their ethos. With high-end components and materials used in all of their rifles, like their 4150 CMV nitride-treated barrels utilizing a 223 Wild chamber and a 1-in-8 twist, optimized for both M855 and M193 ammunition, achieving 1 MOA or better with most manufactured mil-spec ammos. Bolts made out of 9310 super alloy steel and carriers made from shop-peened 8620 steel, maximized for increased toughness, wear resistance, and strength. Each and every part has been meticulously thought out, deliberately tested, and expertly manufactured and installed. Each rifle also comes standard with a 45 or 90 ambidextrous fire controls, gas buster ambi charging handles, and many other high-end functional parts. Check out their website, twogruntsinc.com, that's TWO as in two, and GRUNTS as in rifleman by trade, INC.com, to purchase one of their rifles, or other parts for sale. Use the code CBRN, that's Charlie Bravo Romeo November, to get $50 off your order. That's CBRN to get $50 off your order. Be sure to also check out their Instagram and YouTube at twogrunts_inc to learn more about them, their rifles, and their other products. Once again, that's code CBRN to receive $50 off your entire purchase at twogruntsinc.com. Thanks guys for listening. Now let's get back to the show. It's a weird mashup because for years people were calling out Hollywood for like, Liam Neeson or whoever would be like crying about gun control, and then you see him like waste fucking 50 dudes in a movie, and there was this weird kind of like,
except for The Marksman, don't watch that movie, it's horrible.
Well, there was like this real weird mixed messaging of like, oh yeah, these guys use guns to enrich themselves, and then they call for their banning, and then like Rust happens, and all of a sudden there was like a moment where like a very brief moment that I remember where some actors were starting to talk about never using firearms on sets again. Like they were like, it's over kind of attitude. Like What did that look like from the inside, and as someone who makes a living from that?
Well, for one, I love working on action movies. They're great. It's just as cool as everybody thinks it is. It's the one redeeming fact about the film industry and doing any sort of proper firearm work is action movies. And I think one of them was it Dwayne Johnson, The Rock? Was it him saying his productions will never use it?
I was gonna name drop him, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was him.
I'm pretty sure it was him. But like, those are really fun movies to work on. I'm sorry to tell everybody, but like, I don't want to work on there with airsofts. I did one movie that wasn't one of his, called the Outlaws. It like the In-Laws, but the Outlaws. It had like Pierce Brosnan and one of the silly dudes from that Office show, whatever. Not The Office, but I'm to be somebody who works in movies, I'm horrible with actor names. I'm sorry.
The guy with the head in the face.
Yeah, where they had the big afro guy and like the skinnier guy. Anyways, movie called The Outlaws, very fun movie, but it was very shortly after the Rust incident, and we had a big shootout scene in a cake shop where we had like in our trailer we had like 4 or 5 real MP7s, Tech 9s, a couple of full auto FALs, miscellaneous handguns, etc., etc., etc. And we also had the matching airsofts and rubbers. So if somebody's falling, of course, they get the rubber. If you need to be close, airsoft, whatever, all dependent on the scene and the camera angles. But even though we had a truck full of $500,000 worth of guns, we only ended up using the airsofts because that was right after it. And you can tell, like with recoil, and if you're a gun guy watching it, you don't see the muzzle flash or the ejection pattern or anything like you should. And it's not fun, because it's a lot cooler reloading a magazine than using green gas to recharge an airsoft magazine or popping in a new CO2 cartridge,
Yeah.
And then you have to go through all of the same checks. You have to go, okay, cool. You can see, you open the, pull the slide back. You can see this is an airsoft gun because there's nothing here. I'll hold my flashlight down the end of the barrel. There's no obstructions in the barrel. You can see here in the magazine, there's nothing in the magazine, just where we've taken the follower out or stopped it so that way you don't get slide locked back or whatever. Like, you do all of the exact same stuff, except it's dumb.
They're paying for an armorer to make sure airsoft weapons are clear.
Yeah, it's like you have the opportunity to do LARPing in the fullest possible potential with an unlimited budget, basically. And then you neuter it. And it's really, really boring. It's still fun. Like, it's still neat seeing burnouts and people doing all the cool stuff. But I mean, it loses a lot of the specialty to it. People don't react. One movie I worked on a long, long time ago, Jamie Foxx sort of thing, Sleepless, I think was what it was called, like a casino heist something. Anyways, there was like 350, 400 background running through a casino, and one of the scenes when the bad guy shoots a revolver over the crowd at whoever running across on the other side. If you want to get 400 people to duck at the exact same time, you shoot a quarter load blank over them.
Yeah.
You can't do that with an airsoft gun. You can go, duck! But people are going to hear it. People aren't going to hear it. You have a gunshot, people are going to react to it.
Yeah.
And people carry themselves differently to it. Just like you have the mentalist who can see micro expressions and go, oh, that guy's carrying a gun, that guy's got a knife, I'm Chris Angel. People carry themselves differently when they have the guns, and using the neutered versions of it, it doesn't help the look.
Yeah, it's why Alfred Hitchcock terrified his actors and fucking literally terrorized them to get the accurate responses out of them, and why that's still like a pretty widely used technique. And then you're neutering the art and the potential of your movie and all of that just for, like, I don't know, basically virtue signaling, to be like, yeah, we didn't use real guns, like we were responsible even though we had all of the means to actually be adults and to be responsible. But you're not gonna like stand on the capability you have. You're gonna just say like, nah, that stuff's too dangerous for us.
Yeah, and then the crazy part is, like, they still hire the armorer to come out there for it. You're paying the rate. Like, we're not cheap to come out, because part of the my hourly rate to be an armor, it's like, okay, cool. I'm not just here as the gun guy. I'm also here handling any sort of legal paperwork that's necessary. I'm also transporting firearms back and forth. I'm using my car. I'm not charging you gas or anything for it, even though I'm using my car as a lockup to move stuff back and forth. I have cleaning kits. I have a whole bunch of other kit that I bring with me because blank guns don't run clean.
Yeah.
And
God, no.
there's a lot of stuff I provide, and there's a lot of like, I'll do a technical advisement and training. Depending on the level of the movie, you know, if they're doing something super Navy SEAL, high speed sort of stuff, like, okay, cool, hire a TA, come in. I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I make it a point to shoot with people from all different walks of life. And it's like, okay, cool, this guy was a cop from the 80s. You know what? They hold a gun a completely different way than a cop right now does.
Yeah.
You're filming a movie from the 80s. They need to be shooting and acting a little bit different way. So a little bit of that knowledge goes a long way, and that's all included in my hourly rate. So you're paying me that anyways to show up with an airsoft gun. So why spend an extra $250,000 on VFX afterwards when you can just spend $2,000 to buy gun or to rent the guns and buy the ammo? And it looks better, and it's just as safe as it was before, and you're not building complacency.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's all security theater. Like
100%.
I honestly wonder if The Rock has quietly rescinded his whole "I don't want to work with real guns anymore" thing.
I'm sure if he gets hired on a production that's not his, where it's not his production company, he gets brought on and somebody else is doing it, he's not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
But I think just through his own production company, whatever it's called, Muscles and Tattoos Productions, you know, he's not going to let it happen. But he's always been nice when I work with him, so I can't talk that much shit about it, you know. Yeah. I would just rather see the real ones, because it's, even if all professional productions drop down to only using airsofts and replicas and rubbers and doing it all in VFX later, because they want to spend the extra money, there's going to be a day when there's an independent non-union film that's being filmed, and somebody's going to have a real gun on there, and everybody who's been doing it professionally for 10 years is going to automatically assume it's a fake one. And then we have the same issue again. So just keep the real guns on set. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, the lack of responsibility and like being an adult. It's not that this is like apples to apples, but it's kind of owing to the degradation of the quality of films, where we went from having like just fantastic, like, you know, monster suit creation, like all the VFX and like costuming that you do for like an actual physical monster suit, and then just being like, we'll just add them in post. And it's like, you know, not to take away from, you know, VFX artistry, which is, you know, grown leaps and bounds, but you can always tell when there's a physical, like, suit or a guy in a suit acting, and like the people are responding to it a certain way compared to, like, you know, an ultra smooth, like a glossy VFX monster, and you're like, it's just different. And I think over time, like, I mean, you definitely see it in a movie, and we're speaking from kind of you know, like, obviously we're going to notice if you're using fake guns or if there's fake gunfire VFX, but like,
we're that 1% of people who are autistic enough to notice what a real gun looks like.
But like, I mean, I have to feel like the same gut instinct is probably felt by the audience when the guns are fake too. There's kind of just that, just like you were saying, the loss of like the correct reaction from the audience, and kind of the weight
it feels
those
like
give.
a theater bit.
Yeah.
Like the good example, the Outlaws, that show I worked on, during that cake shootout scene, the guy that played Merrill from Walking Dead, or Daryl's brother, whatever his name was, also the dude with a little whistly arrow from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Michael Rooker.
Yeah, he was in the Outlaws, and during that cake shootout scene, he was a U.S. Marshal or investigator, detective, something. He pulls up in his truck and he pulls out a full auto FAL. We had one on set ready to go, but they opted to use the airsoft one. And if you watch him shooting it, anybody who shot a full auto FAL, or just an FAL or a 308 in general, even if it is a semi-auto and smooth shooting AR-10, you know, it's not an unconsequential gun to shoot.
Yeah.
It puts out the muzzle blast. You know, there's dust flying anywhere that's within 5 feet of the muzzle.
Yeah, it's a battle
It's
rifle.
knocking you on your ass, and especially an older system like that. And it does not look anything like that when he shoots. And I think even some non-gun people will notice stuff like that, or notice the pistol shooting where the hands aren't recoiling any.
Yeah.
Especially if it's
That's
a
a big
smaller
one.
frame person. Yeah.
Good.
And for just a few extra dollars of paying for the blanks, it's there, especially when they already bought the blanks when we had them.
Yeah.
But then you look at movies like a Civil War, we spent over $250,000 in blank ammo in like 2 weeks on that movie.
Hell yeah. That's what we want to get into. So
Yeah, and we had to do it overnight too, because we started shooting with full flash blanks, and we were shooting out at Stone Mountain, Georgia. We had rented out a parking lot, built all of downtown DC with blue screen and actual buildings and whatever. And we kept up 3 counties. We offered over 5,000 families hotels to stay at out of town.
Wow.
And
holy shit.
people still complained about it. So overnight, from the first night, we had to ship in like a couple of M2s. I think we just reflashed the 240s at the local prop house. The Mark 48s, we had them replug them also, and we had to replug on set around 70 M4s. And also we had to fly in with the M2s that we had got from the California location, because we were using all the ones from the Georgia location. We had to ship in another $250,000 worth of blank ammunition overnight, because we had to drop down to quarter flash instead of the full flash that we started with. And then we still had to stop filming at midnight, because these were all night shots during the storming of New York. So, I mean, that production had no problem going with full flash. We broke 2 Mark 48s on that show because we were running 300 rounds of quarter flash back to back to back to back on takes while we were going through the White House without time to get the plug cleaned out. And it basically solid plugged itself.
Just turned into a giant squib.
Just turned into a giant squib, basically, and it bent the receiver on the Mark
Man.
48s.
damn. But dude, I
That's
gotta
wild.
I gotta take a second and say, like, all of the gun work in Civil War was fucking excellent. Like, I love A24 films, and I was like, but I know they're like a little bit more artsy, so I was a bit nervous about what it was gonna look like on one of their films, especially with like the scope of Civil War. But holy shit, especially the storming of DC, that was just
Yeah.
fucking incredible. So
Yeah.
bravo. Were there multiple armorers, or was it all you?
I had started off as the main armor on that, but as we got closer through concepting and stuff like that, I was not on the correct California license at the time, so we defaulted over to another guy that was on that one.
Gotcha.
Which I later got that fixed up, and I've done other stuff now. But on the big days when we were storming DC, I think we had 6 or 7 people that were all acting as armorers out there.
Holy
So we'd
crap.
have like one guy that was just focusing on the 50 cals, one guy doing the 308 belt feds, and then the rest of us were running around the M4s or just loading or supplying back and forth. I had a T-Rex ready rig on because I could put 5 or 6 magazines directly on me. I had my battle belt, had magazines stuck in that, and I, as much as I don't care for 511 tactical pants in the practical world, their strike pants, their cargo pockets are actually inside pocketed for M4 mags. So I could have 4 mags in each pocket
That's
on
awesome.
those, along with everything else. So we're running out and refeeding everybody's guns, getting them set, clearing any jams, replacing their gun if it's something that was bad, and then running back and stuffing magazines between every single take. And there was 7 or 8 of us
Damn.
for 3 or 4 weeks straight on that show or that movie.
That's wild.
Have you seen it yet?
What,
Yeah,
me?
I went to
Oh.
go see it like 2-3 days after you said you saw it.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
What
I
did
even brought
you
my red
think? Just
glasses.
out of curiosity. I'm looking for a pair of red glasses just to go around and ask people what kind of American they are.
I'll send you a pair. Don't worry. I've got like 15 of them.
I fucking love you.
I found a deal on Alibaba and I just ordered the bulk.
Yes.
It was like $6 more expensive to order bulk instead of just getting one from Party City. So, you know. But yeah, movie, it was good. You know, most gun people, of course, I have a copy of the script on my phone. And when the trailers first came out, I saw all the gun tubers and any popular Instagram person going, oh, cool, I want a California, Texas, whatever. That's not. And
Nah.
having read the script, I knew there wasn't going to be any backstory. I knew it was a movie about journalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if anybody hasn't seen it yet and you thought it was going to be this, go back and watch the trailer, but watch it as a movie following around war journalists. And you'll go, oh, wow, okay, cool. I was just too distracted by the explosions and bangs and the cool guns here and there. But it's a movie about war journalists, and it does pretty good. There was a few woke moments that I only knew about because of conceptual meetings. But other than that, I mean, they stay out of politics. They don't make it apparent who's who. You know, like I said, there's only a few things that I noticed, but only because I was in the meetings beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love how like in general American audiences, like if you try and make, or even just Western audiences in general, if you try and make them give a shit about like conflict and like the consequences of war, and it's in some, you know, insert sandy country here, like, oh, the kids got blown up and there's war everywhere and it's war torn, like, shrug, that's really sad. But the hero got to go home and, you know, banged his girl and all that good shit. But like when you see all that kind of thing happening in the US streets, and that was like from what I gather, the intent of Civil War is like, how do you feel if you see that same shit, like airstrikes and tanks rolling through cities and streets that you recognize? And like there was such a strange mixed vibe in the theater I was in. There was the people who kind of went along for like the chuckles of like, you know, Civil War, yeah, fucking it's about time, which I was partially there for. And then there was the people that were like, who actually kind of got more the, oh yeah, there's real fucking consequences to conflict coming to the US. And like there were some moments in there where I was just like, ooh, that's pretty real. Like
oh yeah, they didn't shy away from any sort of gruesomeness on it.
War crimes everywhere, of course.
Oh yeah. There was a very bad movie going couple that was in front of me when I was getting my popcorn, and when they finally got into the theater, talking quietly but still talking more or less through the whole thing, when it gets to the Jesse Plemons scene when he does the execution, she looks over at the husband and goes, I don't like this movie, Jack. And I was like, well, welcome. You're over here. I heard him talking about the movie before. He's like, yeah, let's go, like American Civil War. We're coming back. This is like the rise again. And then it gets to that point. She's like, I don't like this movie. It's like, what do you expect?
Yeah,
like, actually,
the good guys defeat the bad guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a war of hearts and minds at the end of the day. Like, you could be the best fighters in the world, and you and your team of 100 people may be able to go and storm the White House. It's cool, but you know, when the food stops flowing, there's going to be some ugly shit happening.
Yeah. And I liked how a lot of it got into small regional conflicts and just the consequences of food's not coming into cities anymore. You know,
that's why we're paying those Canada dollars that you've been hiding and smuggling in.
They're not worth anything.
No, that was funny when Canadian was the currency of value. I was like, oh, fuck me. What a bad situation.
Yeah. I'd rather take the pesos because the cartels can at least back it up with something.
Yeah. Maple syrup.
I still can't believe you never heard of the maple syrup heist.
I had no idea. You're the one who told me about that.
Yep.
Okay.
VR, are you aware of the maple syrup heist?
I am not, so we gotta derail real quick. I want to get back to Civil War, but what the fuck is the maple syrup heist?
So I'm not going to Google it right now. Everybody else can look it up. But there was a point, Canada apparently has maple syrup reserves for some reason.
That much I knew.
That I can't.
The whole economy rides on it.
Yeah, like our Fort Knox with no gold in it, they have a maple syrup reserve that actually has maple syrup in it. And somebody was able to steal like what, a third of it? or something like that, and they do not know where it went. It was like 10 years later or something where they were able to find out where the maple syrup went and who stole it. But there was a maple syrup heist where they like got to the barrels in the back of the room and they're like, wait a second, this is empty.
This was an inside job.
It was an inside job.
That's incredible.
And Nathan, the Canadian, had no idea that it existed, even though it's one of the most important parts of his history.
I'm sure they suppress that information in Canada. They can't. They can't.
Oh yeah, they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know that the maple syrup is free. You can just take it.
I have so many barrels of maple syrup at the house.
So you said you started out as the main armorer on Civil War, right?
Yep.
So
Yes.
with that responsibility, kind of talking to the creatives during the conceptual stage, is there like much room for input for you, kind of deciding what weapons are going to be in the film and what they look like and that kind of deal, or like what's that process look like?
A bit. As the armorer, you really don't get brought on until a bit into pre-production. A typical movie, let's say if it wasn't an action movie, like any boyfriend girlfriend movie that you see or whatever, it takes about a month and a half for actual shooting. Maybe 30 shooting days is about all it takes. Action movies take a bit more because you have second units that will do more of the action stuff while the main actors go off and do all the talky stuff. But some action movies I've worked on have taken 3, 4, 5 months to shoot, just depending on scheduling and if you have to go shoot overseas or whatever. But pre-production on something like that is usually 3 or 4 months long of the department heads going to all the initial meetings, and they bring on their assistants to help them start going through and ordering stuff, getting things set up. And I know the prop master at the time had already been working for like a month and a half or 2 months before they brought me on. And they sent me an NDA. I got the script, read through it once just to get an idea of everything, so that way you're not trying to plan for something that actually says something different at the very, very end. So you read it through once, you go through, you read it a second time, and I started making notes. And it's like looking at a Jesse Plemons character. I read him in my own mind as like a CIA spook, which kind of played. And it's like, okay, cool. A CIA spook may not just have a normal AR-15. So I had written him down as getting a like a 416 or something like, okay, cool. It's a money gun that like a spook would have.
Yeah.
And I kind of make notes like, okay, cool, like current issue handgun for the militaries, the SIG. This is the current Marine. This is the current Army. Because if you watch, the Army and Marines had different rifles during the storming. Our high-speed guys kind of had personalized rifles, so they were a bit
I
special.
noticed that.
Yeah. So we had 4 guns that were specifically theirs just because they were high-speed guys. But the Marines all had ACOGs. The Army had EOTechs. And I think one was a PEC, one was a D-ball. Either way, so like I went through, got pictures off the internet, made notes, went in, showed it to the prop master, and he said, okay, cool, here's all the pictures that we have. So we kind of agreed that this is about where it was going to be. And since it was based in reality and not some weird, crazy universe or in the future or whatever creative aspect, it was pretty well set in stone. Now, something like Tomorrow War with the Harris CQB furniture, I was not there for the initial anything. I was brought on to be a props person for the second unit and then acting as a weapons handler whenever the weapon stuff was there. But it was like, cool, it looks futuristic. And that's about kind of where that went. I know everybody in the gun world made fun of, 7.5-inch barrel AR without a silencer on it. You know, it's
Yeah.
you're fighting against these things that require penetration and are sensitive to noise.
Yeah, I think
Doesn't work out. But guess what? Circular gun looks futuristic.
Yeah, didn't some of them have bipods?
Yeah, we did have bipods on a handful of them.
Yeah, our Discord was ready to rip you a new one. It's like, whoa. Matt did not decide how these things looked.
Yeah, there's a lot of creative layers to this sort of thing, and a lot of stuff gets out of your hands.
Yeah, and like we'll say stuff, you know, they'll ask opinions on things here and there, but I think they assume that the 99% of the population is just going to see Space Gun.
Yeah.
And not think too much past that.
And
Because
they're
I mean,
not
that's
really
kind
wrong.
of what it came down to. Yeah, exactly. Like we are the 1% in that aspect. You know, if you scored a certain score on the RADS test, you're going to notice that it's going to bother you, but everybody else doesn't. Sorry.
Yeah, everyone else is going, shut up and just watch the movie. Like, but it's so weird. It doesn't make sense.
Like, oh my God, he's teacupping his pistol. This is the worst movie ever. God, guess what? The rest of the movie's pretty good. Just stop looking at that.
Yeah. It's my bar for gunplay in Hollywood is so fucking low to begin with.
No, honestly,
Yep.
I set myself up to be disappointed, and if I'm impressed, it's like, fucking bravo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even working on them, it's like, okay, cool, I saw the filming of it. I saw how they did everything, but it can all change in the edit, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I did one music video. Ugh, I don't like doing music videos, but the guy at the shop calls me the Atlanta's premier music video armor just because he thinks it's funny to send me out with rappers and stuff like that.
How do those go?
Oh man.
Oh man, they're all little bitches. They all look like they're victim weight, and I guarantee like 95% of the listeners here could snap them in half. They also wear $100,000 worth of jewelry everywhere, have money in their pocket, and their bodyguards are garbage. So have fun.
Based.
But like one of them, they were flying in a helicopter. He was shooting his haters, and he wanted a minigun. But miniguns are really, really hard to get. We have a handful in the California location, but to get them out here, it's thousands of dollars. They did not have the budget for that. So we got a big replica M2, and I showed him a video of an M2 firing so he could get the cyclic rate down, have him pulling the charging handle on the side and everything. And like in shooting it, you can see him doing the cyclic rate, more or less what it was supposed to be. And then when they edited it, they made it a minigun.
What?
So you have him sitting there with a sort of cyclic rate, but no, it's a minigun just letting rip, you know?
For fuck's
Yeah.
sake.
Music videos are not fun. Stay away from them. If you ever get the
And
option
you're
to be
in
an armor on a
Atlanta,
music
too.
video, say no. Oh yeah, and in Atlanta, not fun.
No.
Oh,
The music video capital of the world for rappers.
I am so sorry.
You
I
guys-
think when I was visiting you mentioned the area that the warehouse is in is kind of a rough area, and then you mentioned someone was shot in the back of the head just outside the place to steal their wallet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like we film around there a lot too, just because like they want shittier looking streets or whatever the case is. And when I was doing Black Mafia Family, we were maybe like 4 blocks from where that warehouse is.
Oh,
And like we were supposed to shoot somewhere one morning. They're like, okay, cool. Like that morning we get an email. It's like, locations changed. We're going to be here today. So we go and we shoot another day's work, like the next day's work that day. And then the day after we come back to that location initially. And I was talking to a locations guy. I was like, what happened here yesterday? He goes, well, that corner you're standing on right there was a body there. And we saw that when we showed up in the morning to open up set, and we called the police and they had to shut it down for the day.
Oh my
Oh,
Don't
my
tell
gosh.
anybody else though. We don't want the production freaking out.
yeah.
And then there's been multiple times around that same area where we're shooting in some old decrepit warehouse or like this. If you're familiar with The Walking Dead, the Terminus area, it's a place called Collier Metals in Atlanta. And we'll be filming in one of the warehouse areas there. Been there a million times, music videos, TV shows, movies. They all film there just because it's old brick warehouse. Looks really sick. Or hell, even Civil War when they're sleeping next to the train tracks, watching all the gunshots in the
Oh, damn,
background.
that was
That's
the same
where
location?
they're at.
Damn.
Yeah, same location. But we were sitting there and we start hearing bah, 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 from a couple of blocks away. So we kind of locked down the set. And within like 5 minutes, there's a couple of helicopters circling over, spotlights, and we had to shut down production for like 2 hours while they did a manhunt for somebody for shooting in somebody's front yard and doing a drive-by. And welcome to filming in Atlanta.
Sick.
At least in Hollywood, if you're filming on a street somewhere, you're probably not going to pick a bad street. Atlanta, it's just kind of the nature of it.
In Atlanta, all streets are bad streets.
Yeah, all streets are bad streets.
Which, wait, wasn't there just someone just did a drive-by in Drake's house in LA, I think.
Is that in LA or is it in fucking Toronto?
I don't
Drake's
know.
Canadian?
Yeah, Drake.
That would make
Drake's,
sense.
Drake's from Toronto.
It all makes so much sense. No wonder
I hate the
Kendrick
fact that I
Lamar's
know
making
that.
fun of him. I hate the fact that I know Kendrick Lamar was the person making fun of him.
I hate the fact that I recognize Kendrick Lamar's name and know who he is.
Dude, Kendrick Lamar is fucking sick. I'm actually like a somewhat big Kendrick Lamar fan.
Okay, BR, your computer can disconnect now. We're done with you.
Yeah, episode over. Goodbye.
Oh, fuck
So
you
this
guys.
is the last episode of the Art and War. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, now we're doing art and armory. Let's move on.
We've just started a rap beef.
wait,
Oh, great.
is Art and War having a rap beef? Do we have to rap to have a rap beef, or can we just be angry at each other and talk shit?
In all
Yes.
seriousness, I genuinely could not put a face to Kendrick Lamar.
Going back to Civil War, there's one thing that I wanted to ask about, which was the Boog Boys, or the Hawaiian
Yes.
the Hawaiian shirt guys. did they have personalized rifles, or were they like taken gov contract rifles? Because I couldn't really tell with the movement of those shots.
Yeah. Sadly, for those days, I wasn't there.
Oh,
That was
okay.
main armor guy and somebody else. I was working on another show once they
Damn.
started filming that one. So I wasn't there for those exact days, but I do remember in the original script, they weren't even listed as Boog Boys. It was listed as like one faction of an army fighting another faction of an army.
That's interesting.
So I think the Boog Boy thing kind of came into it under more conceptual meetings after I had
Kind of like a
already
happy
shuffled off of
accident
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
But I will give it to them that they at least did win their conflict.
that was
Yes.
So
honestly
bravo.
sick. What?
Even walking up a staircase with your light on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all of them click their lights on. I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
come on. Like, like, these guys clearly did not follow Seaburn.
Oh yeah. You know, in the movie universe, other people don't see your light. It's only
Yeah.
for you.
Yes.
I understand why they do that kind of thing for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
know.
Well, look, if people are going to complain about whatever that dragon show everybody liked when it was really dark on like one of the last episodes, Game of Thrones,
Yes.
like where there's like a whole episode where you couldn't see anything and people complained about it. If they didn't have people turning on their flashlights, they'd be like, "Well, I couldn't see anything inside of the staircase scene."
yeah.
Okay, cool. Turn your lights on. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
mean-
might not be good, CQB, but
It would have been cool to see them. Like, you very rarely see people doing momentary lights for exactly that reason. Like, if you're adjusting for a certain lighting condition, and then you have actors attempting momentary as they're like scanning around, like, you're gonna have a fucking bad time.
Oh yeah. You're already giving them a lot of instruction when they're trying to remember movements in a scene when they're not a tactical person, so they're not privy to how to move through. They haven't talked to anybody, or they haven't had any meaningful time with somebody teaching them CQB where it's not coming to them as a reflex, and they're like, okay, cool, step here, step here, step here, say line, light, talk, move. It's like, just leave your light on,
Yeah.
because we're gonna do a million takes if you try to do your lights flashing and trying to change everything. There's a lot of good
these
actors
are
who can do
actors
a
at the
lot
end
of
of the day.
things. Yeah, they are actors at the end of the day. There's
Yeah.
very few actors I've worked with who are legitimately gun people.
yeah.
But I've seen some actors do some really, really cool stuff with guns. Tomorrow War, they did like a 2 or 3 week boot camp for the actors to get them weapons ready and moving and stuff. So if you watch their movement and their gun work, it's pretty solid, even though they have really silly guns. There's
Yeah.
people doing tactical reloads. Like there's scenes where Chris Pratt's actually doing reloads in the middle of the street, dropping mag, throwing new one in, tossing one to his friend, standing up. They move
Yeah.
correctly. It's just you make creative
I've heard
sacrifices.
Chris Pratt is actually a little bit of a gun guy. But
Oh yeah, I
don't
mean
know.
he has a sheep farm,
Yeah.
like you kind of have to be a gun guy if you have a sheep farm in the US. If you're in Britain, your name's Jeremy Clarkson, but if you're over here, you're pretty cool.
Hey, you don't think Jeremy Clarkson's strapped?
Yeah.
Jeremy Clarkson strapped, guaranteed. You didn't see the episode where they did the drive-by shootings at Virginia International Raceway?
Is that his Amazon show?
That may have been Amazon. I'm not sure if that was Top Gear or Amazon.
I never saw the Amazon show, but I mean, famously, I
Skip the first season, skip the second season, third season's where it starts getting good.
Oh, thank fuck! Isn't that the last one?
Yes, and then
It's
they
like-
started just doing the specials.
Yeah.
So the specials are always good.
Fuck.
I think it was American because it was back when. Yeah, it was not American, but on Top Gear they did drive-by shootings where they were doing drive-by shootings at a gun range near Virginia International Raceway, and Hammond and May are using like a pistol or just something like that and shoot, and Jeremy runs by with somehow he had got his hands on something full auto for the shoot, and just let it rip when he came down there. So Jeremy Clarkson.
I think I've seen that.
How have I not? What the fuck?
Are you not British?
Yeah, British license revoked.
Did you not have BBC Two on your state mandated television?
that you pay
My
for
license?
a TV license for?
No,
Your
yeah,
license?
You had a license?
we watched a shit ton of Top Gear, but I don't remember that. So I need to do my research. But fuck.
I used to think Top Gear was just an internet show back in the day. For any car guys listening, I used to watch car videos before YouTube was a thing on streetfire.net. It was like pre-YouTube, streetfire.net, like old school street racing videos. And there was just like this British thing called Top Gear, where it was these funny guys talking about cars. And then one day I was browsing Dish Network Guide or whatever, and I saw Top Gear. I was like, that name's familiar. I was like, oh shit, it's an actual TV show.
It's the best thing.
Bought all the
BBC will
seasons, all
ever
the
produce.
DVDs, watched them a million times. One of the best shows ever.
That's whenever I'm doing like an introduction to a video episode now, I always say to Phil, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do a Jeremy Clarkson and just like walk on screen from like an obscenely long distance.
Make it awkward.
Yeah, I've done that for. We still haven't released the fucking episode for Naughty After Dark. I think that's next in the pipeline. But
did you guys take video for that?
Yeah, we did. We recorded a whole video episode that's still in the pipe.
That's so fucking funny.
But I start the episode walking up a hill from like quite a distance away, mic'd up, introducing what's going on.
You should carry a ladder around with you and just like drop into frame one time and somewhere where there's obviously nowhere to drop into frame from.
Yes, I will
It's
make.
like we're here in the middle of nowhere. Whoop.
Anyway, hello.
But yeah, the Rust shouldn't have happened.
Yes.
Anyway, as I was saying, these people are fucking. I mean, that seems like a nepotism baby moment because, from what I understand, the father of the armorer that was involved in the Rust incident was actually like a very accomplished like armorer and prop guy in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's like a old school Western stunt prop armor sort of guy where he's been on doing quick draws on film and everything like that.
Yeah.
But this is all from other people's words because I've never worked out west with anybody from there. They've also said he was known to party and maybe drink some and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But I mean, everybody does, you know. There's very few people who don't have drinks and don't get crazy at night, you know. So I can't hold that against him. Yeah, it's the film world. You know, half the people are on cocaine. If you're not, you're already way ahead of the bell curve. But he was an old school, been around doing it forever. So she was on set as a kid a whole bunch. And I think this is her second ever job as an armor. Now, before they hired her, they actually reached out to the company I usually work with. And most of the Georgia guys here, a lot of the California guys, they were all asked, but they wanted us to be the armorer, they wanted us to be the prop master and the special effects supervisor. And all of us say, no, you're not even paying us the rate to be an armorer. Why are we going to do three people's jobs?
Man's going to make it a lot less safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you want safety, you hire the armorer. You can have somebody else double up on jobs, but for the thing that's literally a handheld machine designed to kill somebody, you should probably have one person dedicated to it. I'm sorry, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So usually from an armorer standpoint, the gun's checked by the person at the prop house when I go to pick it up, and I check it also before I leave the prop house to make sure it's empty and make sure it's what it's supposed to be, serial numbers, everything. When I get to set, I check it. I show it to the assistant director. They check it, and I check it, or I show it to them. And then I usually put it up or lock it up. When it gets time to use it, I take it out, I check it again, I show the AD again, the assistant director. I show anybody who's going to be on set, the camera people, any other actors, any grips or electrics that have to be there for lighting or movement or whatever. And the last person I check with is the actor. So the gun's checked 7 or 8 times from the time I pick it up to when I show it to them. The bare minimum job for me to do, I can not look at the thing the entire time. The bare minimum for me to do is to check it before I hand it to the actor.
Yeah.
So that's the absolute, if I'm doing nothing else during my entire day, show it to the actor and show it safe. As far as the assistant director is concerned, they're supposed to look at it when it comes in during the day to confirm, okay, cool, this is a real gun, or like, oh, okay, it's just an airsoft. And then to supervise my checking with the actor. And then the actor, their bare minimum thing is just say like, hey, nobody check this gun with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, she was at fault. She should have ballsed up and said something.
Yeah.
Also,
is there a suit against her now? I'm not sure if it's criminal charges. But
I think she just recently got charged criminally for like involuntary manslaughter. Don't quote me on it. I kind of stick out of it since I have my opinions regardless of what her charges are, but I believe they all should be charged. But this is one of the hearsay stories that I can't confirm or deny, but I've heard it from a few people. She wasn't being the best handling with guns. That's understood. A lot of the camera department had already said stuff about it. But this was also during the height of our state-mandated mask-wearing times. So Hollywood, already being super far left, was super, super ridiculous on all their rules with this. Okay, cool. This room is a 20 by 30 room. You can only have 4 people in here at any given time. They were filming at a very small church at this film ranch where there could only be a certain number of people in there. So from what I understand, this could be wrong, that she had the gun sitting on like her little table inside of the church, but the COVID person, the person wouldn't let her in there to clear the gun. So the assistant director picked it up, said it was clear, handed it to Alec.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. That's...
So that's... If it was me, my table would have been outside, and I would have made them come out to me, or I would have said, cool, I'll bring the gun inside. You just tell somebody to step out.
Yeah.
So that way we can be safe for whatever your silly made-up rules are. But, like I said, even if they were shooting real bullets, shouldn't be doing that. There should be the separation of fakes and reals. You know, it doesn't require the back pressure, so you don't have to plug it. So you can go shoot real stuff. We have taken guns before from inventory to go do gun training with actual real live rounds before, but it always goes back and gets re-paperworked to come back out as a blank gun from the source. But like the bare minimum was to check it before they handed it to him. So she failed the bare minimum, he failed the bare minimum, and he failed the bare minimum. And then producers, as far as I'm concerned, just all cheap their way into having an accident. So I don't know what their charges should be, but I'd see at least 3 manslaughter charges. People try not to blame Alec for it, but if he does the scene perfectly every single time and shoots a blank perfectly every single time for 20 takes, then on the 21st take, puts the gun up to his co-star's head and pulls the trigger and kills her, is it the armorer's fault?
Yeah, that was
that
was a difficult one from like all of the information out there, because it's like, okay, like I get it's not his job to check it's clear, but like you said the earlier about kind of safe directions and stuff, like from my understanding, the gun was pointed directly at the camera, and then there was and then there was 2 people behind it.
Yeah, because usually you have a camera person and then like an assistant camera person who would be doing focus or whatever, but they were lining up the shot. So instead of the director sitting outside where the monitors would have been, I believe the director was inside and just watching over the camera person's shoulder so they could set up the shot. And I believe the shot was the revolver pointing down somebody and then decocking it because the situation de-escalated. Then everybody knows with that particular sort of gun, like to decock it, there has to be some sort of manipulation of the trigger.
Yeah.
And him not being a gun person, the accident happened.
Yeah.
Shit situation all around.
I also read somewhere, as you said, and I think I brought this up earlier in the episode, that the revolvers were actually being taken out by members of the crew and being used with live ammunition to just shoot cans over lunch break.
Yep.
Well, it's New Mexico. What the fuck else are you gonna do? But yeah.
Yeah.
There's...
And a good amount of the crew had walked off the set because of living conditions, and one of the things that it had was mentioned was lackadaisical attitudes towards gun safety.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the complacency.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we got guns.
Like I said, I've got no problem with it happening. I've got no problem with people using guns to go shoot targets. I'm all for it. Make people feel better and safer around it.
Yeah.
Don't do it with the gun that you're going to have on set.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gun that in half an hour is going to be pointed at a human being, while
exactly.
Yeah. And the
idea
of
so
the
many things
contamination
could have been prevented.
Yeah. The contamination with live rounds into the prop rounds.
Oh yeah, I've got 2 backpacks. One of my backpacks only goes to set and never goes to the range or does anything normal with me. Just like there are people who accidentally bring a round onto an airplane, even though they thought they emptied their backpack after the range day, and they like TSA somehow miraculously catches somebody doing something wrong. They get caught. So it's like, cool, I have 2 backpacks. I don't bring my normal backpack to work.
Yeah.
Just for that reason. Even though I'm very confident in myself, I'm not going to give myself that opportunity.
Absolutely. It's
And now I'm not going to say that I have different caliber guns where I'm not going to carry my 9mm Glock driving to work that day, because I'm not going to own another caliber, you know. But I do keep separation of backpack and everything. So I do what I can.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to some of your nightmare stories from set, you know, dealing with producers, directors, actors, or otherwise.
Ooh. It usually all starts when you tell them how much you charge, because there is a union rate for a weapons handler, which that would be like somebody I get brought on as the armor, and then like, okay, we have a big day and I need somebody else who's competent that can help babysit things while I'm there, or help load mags or whatever. So usually there's the argument like, okay, cool, yeah, my rate's double what you think it is. And then I'm guaranteed 10 hours every day versus the normal 8. So like they're already paying out a huge chunk, and that's usually like 3 or 4 emails going back and forth. Then proving that I have, there's no armor certificate. Like, sure, I can go to Glock and get an armor certificate for Glock. That doesn't mean anything about movies though.
Yeah.
Completely different range of skills. So it's proving competency. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I took some shooting classes with somebody. Oh, I shoot recreationally a couple of times a week. That doesn't mean anything to films. So a lot of it's the beginning argument, you know. And then it comes down to like actual horror stories on set. It's usually just slow nights. Like, thankfully, I've never been on set when anything bad's happened. On Bad Boys, we had a stunt guy break an arm or a shoulder or something like that. But his stunt was to crash a motorcycle.
So
And
that's
you
kind
can
of
only-
comes with the territory.
Yeah, it kind of comes with the territory. And like, there's an ambulance there on set. He crashes the motorcycle and he's like, oh man, my arm's broke. Gets on the ambulance, goes away, and we have to wait till the ambulance gets back till we can start filming again, just because we need to have an ambulance on set. And then he showed back up like 3 hours later in a sling, and he's being an assistant to the other people who are doing their stunts. So they're a different breed. Like, it could be nightmare. Oh, actually, that day was a nightmare. We were filming in a place called Underground Atlanta. If you existed in the 90s, you would know that is a very cool, hip place to go hang out and listen to music and see shows and have food and diners and stuff like that. If you exist in today's time, there's hobo shit on the walls.
Nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Don't know how they do it. Don't want to know how they do it.
I've always thought that
But
whenever you see hobo shit on a wall, you're like, first off, how and why? What kind of fucking
Like-
drugs do you take to manage that? Like, are they picking it up and flinging it? Is it a weird like handstand? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, like what drugs don't you take to make that happen? But it's like, okay, cool. We're filming in this cool location. The lights are everywhere. If anybody's curious, it's the scene on Bad Boys for Life, the third one, where the motorcycles are chasing the Jeep Trackhawk, which was a pre-production Trackhawk. Super sick to see an all-wheel drive supercharged SUV with a drifting hydraulic handbrake in it on set. Me being a car guy, I love the hell out of that. But when they're chasing them under, and then the bikes shoot up the surveillance truck or whatever, at the time that was the most squib hits on a truck ever done in film.
Damn.
But we're down there and we have a couple $100,000 worth of machine guns down there. I think there's 3 people kind of acting as an armor and weapons handlers and stuff there. A couple of props people. It's all second unit stuff. So none of the main actors are there. They're off doing actual acting. We're just doing all the stunts and the action scenes. But we have all this Hollywood stuff. We have a snack table set up and everything. And then you turn around and 7-8 feet away, there's just smears going down the wall. And on the other side of the fence, there's the train track where the train's like India style going between tents whenever the subway's moving through underground Atlanta. So there's a few hell situations like that. Or like if you're shooting on an active street, having to worry about getting hit by traffic when you're crossing. We had a police chase come through set one time where a guy crashed about 100 feet away from where we were filming in the middle of the night. And then we had a lockdown for helicopters and police chase and stuff. But there's really been no hell situations where somebody's just bad.
Yeah.
Or somebody's unbearable to work with. Like, some of the smaller actors are usually a bit pricky, but the big ones, they're always nice. I mean, me and Chris Pratt talked about raccoons for like 30 minutes one day on the beach. Like, super great guy. I love him.
Hell yeah. No, but that's...
What does he think about raccoons?
Really, if I remember right, it was just like how smart they were. We were eating lunch. We were on the beach. It was for Tomorrow War on like the final scene. We were down at Jekyll Island in Georgia, and there was raccoon tracks everywhere against where his tent was set up and next to our prop setup. And we're just pointing out, like, man, there's at least 3-4 of them over here. And I was telling them one of the local islands there, you go there and the raccoons will unzip your tent and steal like food out of your pockets while you sleep. I was like, they're probably the same guys, you know? But nice guy. The only big actor that I thought was pricky at first was Robert Downey Jr. doing Avengers, and he had people come to the soundstage beforehand, and the soundstage had to be under 65 degrees or something. We're like, man, that's a bit of an asshole thing to do. And then he shows up and he's wearing the full motion capture suit and everything. I was like, okay,
yeah, that makes a little more sense.
I get it. You're wearing superhero things and it gets sweaty. I understand.
Yeah,
you want it to be a little bit Arctic out here. That's fine.
Oh yeah. You pass the prick test. You're okay.
Yeah, I've heard of all people that Tom Cruise is a joy to work with. Like I
would like to work with him just because he's a motorcycle guy and a car guy and a airplane and helicopter guy. He kind of fits all the things I'm into.
Yeah, I've heard he's genuine about his interests too, and he's very, very good and good natured to all the cast and crew.
Oh yeah,
he'll learn everyone's names. He goes out his way to.
Will Smith does that too.
Really?
It's because both of them are trying to fucking convert you.
Is Will Smith one of those?
Yeah? I think I'm pretty sure he is.
I always assumed that was a big tax evasion thing.
Based Scientology?
Yeah, because like I actually always thought Scientology was just a neat way to get around taxes. That said, I don't fucking know. I don't know. It seems like
send them an email. They'll bother you for the rest of your life.
Oh god, do not send them an email, people, please.
Maybe we can get Xenu on the podcast or something.
If you go to their website, you can submit your email for a newsletter. Use Nathan@seaburnart.com or BR@seaburnart.com.
I worry now. Don't they have a navy?
I don't fucking know.
If I was a rich fake religion meant entirely just to get celebrities and do tax evasion, I would have a navy.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
Like, you already have these buildings in super popular areas. You have money.
Hey,
disappeared.
Hey, there I am.
God, we thought they came for you for a second.
Yeah.
I had submitted my email on their website and they just took over my computer.
Tom Cruise breaks in, just immediately snaps your neck. And
you're interested and you like helicopters?
Did you call me a fudge packer?
Yeah. No, I will give props to him though for whatever that Mission Impossible was. He learned how to fly helicopter to like a 2,000 hour standard.
Yeah.
In like 5 months. So props to him. That's not hard, or that's not easy to do.
I wonder what his rad score is.
Actually.
Oh.
It's gotta be high.
It's either really high or really low. There's no middle ground.
Like freakishly low, like Lucas, where it's like a 6.
Yeah. Me and Lucas have the same score.
Oh,
so,
really? Jesus Christ.
I don't have any of the social things, but I do have hyperfixations on different topics.
Yeah. I feel like if you score over 200 or under 10, you're about the same.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fucking horseshoe theory, but with the autism score.
Actually.
Yeah, it's my autism. I get to pick which way it leans.
Yes.
Am I the social autism or the hyperfixation autism? You tell me.
We're kind of going in the opposite direction of how we usually do these things. I kind of wanted to get into kind of like your origins with this kind of work. Like, were you a lifelong gun guy, or did you get into guns at like a later date? Like, what was that for you?
Really not as intense as other people that I've heard on the show. Had a BB gun when I was like 10.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
Wasn't even a Red Ryder. It was like a weird, like the fore-end pump sort of style, or levered out. And then when I turned 13, I got like a semi-auto 16 gauge, and that shot that a few times up until I was
13
18.
gauge?
16 gauge. Got it when I
Nice.
was 13.
Okay, yes, I mixed that up.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I was never super led that way by parents or friends or whatever. Like, I wanted to hunt when I was younger. I had some of the whitetail hunting books, because being from Georgia, deer just exist
Yeah.
everywhere. But my grandfather was a hunter, but my dad only went with him like twice when he was a kid, so I never got the hunting thing from my father. I actually hunted for the first time on my own, either late last year or early this year. But I was never a super, super big gun guy, and even once I hit the age where I could buy something, I think my first was a Glock 23, the compact 40 cal, for no other reason than like, cool, this is the one that's at the store, that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
There was no thought between 9mm, 45, 40, 357 SIG. It didn't matter to me. It was like, cool, this is a Glock. It's subcar. It's compact, so it's smaller, but whatever. And I held that for a year and a half with a Black Hawk holster, and I'd carry it outside the waistband and just wear a bigger jacket, so that way I really wasn't seen. And then summertime, sometimes it would be seen. There's a few pictures of me floating around with it out, but I never thought too much about it. At one point, I bought a Bushmaxer XM15. You know, the bullpup, because they
Bushmaxer.
got kick. Bushmaxer. They call it a bullpup because it's got kick. Boy, that guy.
Dude, I hate that guy. I wonder what happened to him. Didn't he get arrested for unrelated things?
I'm not going to say probably, because that would be racist. But his voice is good. I'll give that to him. I'd listen to him talk about a lot of shit. Good voice.
Oh, dude, same.
I would love to get that
But yeah,
guy for
had a
an ad
Bushmaster. Better help.
read.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. MeUndies. It's like a hand job for your shit. I don't know.
We need a Seaburn Art themed pouch, ball sack
A
pouch
Seaburn.
underwear.
Yes.
We are always open to taking dick related money. I don't know.
We are
how-
not on brand enough to take any. Can you imagine if we got a sponsorship from fucking BetterHelp? I would consider Raid Shadow Legends because they pay like fuck you money.
Yeah, if you ever
It's like,
hear,
okay, cool, better help. We're gonna help you find a better gun to put in your mouth.
yeah, exactly. Like you would hear me or Nathan doing like an all sincere like BetterHelp ad, and then 30 seconds after returning from the ad break, one of us would be joking about eating your gun.
Just
Yeah, like
immediately-
I went to the gun store recently, and the mouthfeel on the new cigs was just
Man,
unreal.
they are very tasty, very tasty.
So yeah, back to like liking guns and not shooting myself. I had my Bushmaster, and after a bit, I was moving jobs around, losing a little bit of money, so I sold it to somebody and didn't have another AR for a few years. And then I picked up a Springfield Saint pistol 300 blackout, just because I had seen a few videos like 300 blackout. I was like, oh, cool, man, that's what I really, really want. So I did that, held on to it for a bit. And then my friend George, shout out to you, slightly, subtly made fun of me. And I ended up picking up a Daniel M4A1. And then slowly it's like, okay, cool. You know, I can either buy cheap guns, or I'm working in an industry where I can actually afford better quality stuff. So then I started building my own. I did my own 10.3 inch build, Mark 18-ish sort of thing. And now that's a 12.5. I've got a 4.16 clone with the BRN4 stuff now. 14.5 Daniel, but everything's been changed where it's just a rail now that's basically from them. And it shifted my mindset. And for a while I carried an HK VP9, and I carried that for a couple of years.
You bougie
And it wasn't
motherfucker.
until Tomorrow War, actually. Oh yeah, bougie, yeah. But it wasn't until Tomorrow War, one of the guys there, one of the armors that works specifically with that prop master that was doing it. I told him about it. He's like, "Cool. I hope it's always there for you." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Where can you get parts for it?" I was like, "Online." He's like, "Is that always going to be a thing? Do your friends have
Yeah.
VP9s?"
Yeah.
I was like, "No." He's like, "No. What else does your mag fit?" And I was like,
VP9.
Another VP.
He's like, "I'm not saying Glock's the god gun, but like, how many of your friends have Glocks?" I was like, all of them do.
Yeah.
He's like, "Look, dude, do what you want to. It's got a good trigger. It feels good. Smooth, good looking gun. But look at compatibility."
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've done now. And that's kind of what I've been preaching to everybody else. Like, get whatever you shoot, you know, if it fits in your hand good, if you're going to go shoot with it and practice with it, it's better than a gun you're never going to go practice with.
Yeah.
You know, my 43X that I had was a really good concealed carry gun, but I hated shooting it because I've got big hands. And it's not the friendliest on the webbing between your thumb. I shoot my 19X 50, 60 times more, so I
Yeah.
carry the 19X.
Yeah.
But I never really had the history in it. I just got thrown into the deep end once I started doing it more professionally. I was always competent. I was always happy, and I can explain things to people who aren't gun people. But when I went off the deep end, I went off the deep end. I've got I've got a handful of suppressors. I've got nods. I've gone as far as you can go with it, really,
Yeah.
outside of owning a transferable machine gun. And I'm happy. I've got what I need. I just want duals instead of a single tube now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Matt,
That's a
what
pretty...
were you carrying the first time we ever met? I think it was like a Glock 34 with an 8-point T2 on it. I don't know even know
T1.
how you did that. T1? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Just directly
yeah.
mounted
Had
to the
a-
slide.
Yeah, I had bought a couple of different ways to mount it. I had bought the old Unity Tactical Atom setup, but they don't make a 34 slide for that, so I just have that waiting for somebody to mill it. I've got a Raven Baylor or Baylor Raven mount where I could do it, but I had somebody custom mill something where it just slides directly into the dovetail. And it seems to hold. Got a couple of thousand rounds through it, but it's great because you can watch the red dot the entire cycling of the slide and stay on target.
That's actually
Makes
kind
it
of
weird,
fucking awesome.
weirdly enjoyable to shoot.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised it cycles with all the weight on there.
I did have to drop the spring.
Yeah.
The spring's 1 or 2 pounds, whatever the next step down from whatever
I think
thing factory
15
is. I think
pounds.
factory is a 17 and 15 is the next lightest. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did have that issue where it wasn't cycling perfectly, but I actually think it cycles better than my 19X. So I'm not going to complain about it. That's my 75% of the time I don't carry gun, but 25% of the time I do just because it's silly.
Yeah.
And I like to talk to people with it because it's like, oh, well, we want to get a little Ruger 4-shot, like 32 ACP gun because it's concealable. And then I pull up my shirt and there's world's giantest Glock sitting right there that they didn't know I was carrying.
I think
No, stop making excuses. Get a holster, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just dress right. Like I know like someone I worked with pretty recently, they conceal carry a Glock 34, and you know, not shitting on them. They're like a skinny dude with not much surface area to hide a fucking gun, and they don't dress like super baggy, and you could not tell they were concealing a Glock 34. Like they just, if you dress around it and like just know what you're doing with a good holster, you can fucking conceal whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. And go to the gyms, guys. You know, if your pecs get bigger, you can conceal bigger guns.
Big old
I'm just
inflated
saying.
chest, so you have more. So you have a tent dropping around your waist.
Yeah, exactly. If you can drape it, you can hide it. So go to the gym, work out, be healthy.
Yes.
Don't let it stop you. I worked jobs where it's 6 days a week, 17 hours a day. You just have to do it.
Based.
Just 30 minutes when you get home, do something. It doesn't matter. I did it for a year to prove to myself that I could. Every day. Didn't matter what I was doing that day. I actually got the cough during that year. It was 2021. So I actually had it, and it's like, okay, cool. I'm not going to work out during being infected with it, because it apparently, if you work out or overexert yourself, it can hurt getting better. So I just did yoga. Just stretched. You know, do something physical.
Yeah.
You know what I did during COVID when I had it? I chain smoked for 3 days and then I was fine.
I knew I was naked sunbathing
Hell
like
yeah.
at least 50% of the time outside.
Recharging.
It's like vitamin D, guys. Let's go.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If I wasn't sleeping, I was outside.
Yeah, that is a good idea. I took up hiking a lot during COVID, and I got a $2,400 ticket for it. Yeah.
Which you ignored.
I fucking hate Canada.
Yeah.
What?
You ignored that one, right, and got away with it?
I fought it. I
That's
ignored
right.
it until the last possible day, just to be inconvenient, I guess. Went to the courthouse, extended it as long as I could again. Waited the longest possible time, got a date, went in with all the intentions of just going completely schizo on the stand, represent myself, and just, not pay it no matter what. And the prosecutor came out. This process was like 2.5 years. Prosecutor came out and said,
So
"Hey,
you're saying it's slightly quicker than your healthcare?
Slightly quicker. If
They'll tell you
I
to
don't
kill
know.
yourself so fast.
Exactly. No,
So
he
you
just
got a
told me
ticket.
they
Would you like maids?
Yeah. Are you interested in euthanasia? What?
But yeah,
You can either pay your parking ticket or die.
Better help.
BetterHelp.
Thank you for calling BetterHelp.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. You ever feel like the Canadian government is going to force you to commit suicide? Call BetterHelp.
Fun fact, if anybody wants to delay whatever their appealing process is, if you mail in your appeal using the standard mail, you can call them and say, hey, I've
It's
put
in
my
the
appeal
mail.
in the mail. They have to wait for it, but you can really have them delay it if you leave white powder inside of the envelope whenever it gets there. Then that really holds stuff up.
Based.
You get at least another 2 or 3 days out of it.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a Kaczynski joke, but never mind. Because
That's not your job. That's Nathan's job.
correct. Well,
Do it anyway.
I did just add Kaczynski to my my office library. I've got urban sniping, unconventional warfare, Ted's manifesto, and then like some shit on graphic design. So like if you come in and you're like a new hire, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on here?
What does this business stand for again? What was the motto?
Blow them away. That's my my approach to marketing. Just blow them the fuck away.
It's like, listen here, new hire. You signed your paperwork with a bloody fingerprint. What do you expect?
HR? There is no HR.
You left your mark. You're one of us.
You also, by the way, you now have AIDS.
Sorry, we use the same needle. It's part of the brotherhood.
We're blood brothers in the worst possible way.
Oh, speaking of Hollywood.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ooh. No, so like kind of literally on that tangent, like, so were you a prop guy prior to becoming like more in the armorer role, or like what was the kind of the timeline on becoming a gun guy and getting into this industry? Like
Okay, so getting into it, it wasn't my choice.
They kidnapped me. Send help.
I showed up and it was fun, and I stuck around. I had kind of had like the weird Slumdog Millionaire life of a whole bunch of different jobs, being like an auto mechanic, selling shoes. I'd done like a little bit of everything, and I got tired of bouncing jobs. And I was like, cool, let's just go into the Air Force for 6 years, so that way I could like just do something and not worry about like, okay, cool, do I still like this job? Like, I wanted to be forced to just work,
stick it out. Yeah.
I got tired of moving around, so I was like, cool, I'll just sign my
So
life
you
away.
joined
That
the
sounds
fucking
normal.
military where they're gonna send you wherever they need you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I went to go do that, but at the time I had owed money on a car that I had, which like cheap used car, but I got a loan to build credit or whatever. But I only owed like $4,000 on it. But this happened to be right at the time when the military started checking credit scores and seeing what you had, and they didn't want you to be in basic and not making payments, and then the bank coming to the Air Force and So they looked at my credit score and they're like, hey, it looks like you owe money on a car. I was like, yeah, I'm making payments. They're like, okay, cool. Well, we need you to write a letter explaining how you plan on making payments on it while you're in basic. So that night I went home, paid off the car the next day out of savings, and then showed back up with a letter said, I paid it off. I'm ready to go. And I'd already scored like mid-90s on the ASVAB. Like they wanted me. It wasn't anything where they were trying to shove me away, but whoever approved that letter that he had sent it to was retiring, a new guy was coming in. So it took like 10 or 12 weeks to process this letter to get my approval to join. And in the meantime, I still needed money. So I was looking at different jobs to do. This was like 2013. I was looking for different jobs to do because I have to pay bills.
Yeah.
And I didn't, being a nice guy, I didn't want to get hired at like a car dealership. I had an offer to go be a parts person at a car dealership. I didn't want to go there and get trained and have them helping me out, get started. And then like 3 weeks later, be like, okay, see you later, going to basic training.
Yeah.
So a guy my father went to high school with was like one of the extras or background actors on movies in his retirement, where you just show up like 1 or 2 days, you work, and then you just go home and you see somebody post on Facebook again, you apply, and then you go do something else. So it's like, oh shit, this is perfect. There's no commitment to doing any of this work. You know, you apply on Facebook to the casting agencies, they email you, you show up. And within the first week, I was already working like 3 or 4 shows, and 1 or 2 of them were more or less full time where I had to turn down work. And then I started seeing the same props people over and over again on all these different productions. And I was like, hey, by the way, like, I'm decent with firearms because I had slowly started getting into it at that point. I was like, I'm not scared of them. I can handle them. I'm good at working, doing stuff. I can weld, I can fabricate, I can do wiring, because this is all stuff that I did when we were building cars and working as a mechanic. And I just had all these weird little skills that just fit into the props department. Because if you're not familiar, most people think movie props like, okay, cool, he's got a big honky hammer. It's like, no, the wallet that you have is a movie prop. That ID that they have, somebody had to make them. You know, this weird, crazy
everything.
tool that they have. Everything is a movie prop. If you can pick it up, it's a prop.
Yeah.
If it just exists in a room, set deck may touch it, or set it up, or set dressing people may put it in there. The actor's never going to pick it up. But for most things, anything you see an actor using is a prop. And if it breaks, somebody has to be there to fix it. Somebody has to be there to make it look right, to make sure it functions right, whatever it is, you know. So I kind of fit right into the props department. And after the first show, one of the guys who had signed my paperwork to get me into the union was one of the main armorers here in Atlanta. And he knew that I was good with guns. I'd invited him shooting a few times. And it was some little movie, and he was like, hey guys, I'm working something bigger right now. Would you like this movie? It's just going to be a hunting rifle with no blank firing, no nothing. You just got to go there and babysit a rifle. And that was my first armor gig. Was my second ever production I worked on as crew.
Damn.
And then I just kept stepping in the good shit, you know. Of course, I also stepped in music videos, not good shit. But I stepped in the good shit pretty early, and I've had the ability to talk to actors in plain English in a way that they can understand. The guy who got me in, he's a very proper person. So you can imagine a 75-year-old actress who's never handled a weapon in her life being handed one saying, okay, cool, this is a Glock 34. There is no round in battery right now. Trigger finger safety is on you. Da-da. She's fucking terrified. She is scared. But if I can go up there and say, okay, cool, we've got one blank right here. It's loaded. It's ready to go. We're keeping our finger off like I taught you. We have our aim point over here. Everybody's clear. And as soon as they say we're rolling, I'm handing the gun off to you, and it's on you. You know, I was able to convey that a lot easier to a lot of people, which I think is why I got more callbacks as time went on, because people saw that I was calmer with it, but still stern with my rules and where I wanted to be.
Yeah. That's
still don't want to be here, but it's fun.
Is there anything that you'd like to kind of move on to from props, or is this kind of like the career you want to stick with, kind of, you know,
it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave because one, the money's great. Like, money's great. I cannot deny that. Like last year I worked maybe 8 months out of the year and made over 6 figures.
Nice.
So to have 4 months off to where you can still come back to work after 4 months or 2 months off or whatever, like, not many places do that.
Hell
and
no.
that's just kind of the magic of each production you work for is its own entity. So if you get hired, you go work. If not, you have time off. But there's no vacation time. So I wasn't getting paid for any of that. So it's hard to leave on that fact alone. But the unpredictability makes it suck. and then the people that are there kind of make it suck. I've kind of only been able to exist in there because I'm the very middle, I'm not going to say libertarian, but like anarcho-capitalist, however you want to classify it, like
Yeah,
I don't like Trump, I don't like Biden.
Arts.
Yeah, like I can sit there and say, cool, I don't like Trump along with everybody else in film.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool, pro Biden. No,
Whoa.
I'm not pro him either,
Yeah.
So like I ride that gray area, which works out, but I also still have very deep morals. I'm like a homegrown, like Orthodox Christian sort of guy. Like I read a Geneva Bible from like the 1500s because I don't like everything that's been done in translation. So I've got like old school morals and ways that I like stuff. And being in the film industry, that doesn't really mesh well.
Doesn't mesh with
So
child sacrifice and adrenochrome.
Oh yeah. Like one production I worked on, it took somebody I was working with 3 months before I caught her slipping up and said boyfriend instead of partner. So it's just the caliber of people you work with. They're great people. They work great, good friends, but they're, in my opinion, very misled. But they have different lives, different things they come from. I can't judge. That's not my job. But yeah, I love to get out of it. My dream's helicopters. I'm a huge aviation nerd. Like, I'm not even a gun guy at the end of the day. I'm a car guy. Like the way that some people know about guns and every caliber, forgotten weapons, any of these guys. I'm that with cars. I probably know 10, 50, 100 times more about how automobiles and stuff work than I do with guns. Guns pays the bills, and I'm very confident with them. But I'm not a gun guy in that sense.
You could have fooled me.
Cool. Oh yeah, I play it off well. That's why I had this job.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But like I like stuff with motor. I like airplanes. Over the strike here recently, I worked at a repair station where we repaired like fuel components, hydraulics and stuff like that. And I really enjoy that job because it's like the highest echelon of mechanicking. Like you can be like, okay, cool. You can let these brakes slide on a car. You can tires, keep going. Oil leak, let it go. You don't have to fix it now. Airplane, no, sorry, you fix it now.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that because there's no questions. There's none of that. Also, hey Sean, I know you're listening. But I enjoy that aspect of higher mechanicking and doing something to the perfect level. And on top of that, I just want to fly helicopters because they're cooler than anything else.
So do you think there's any path towards like I don't know what the equivalent to an armorer for vehicles on a set would be, or would you rather just do that outside of the film industry?
There is picture cars. I've got a lot of picture car friends because one of the props jobs is license plates and stuff. So you're always chasing around the picture car people. Some of my best friends are picture car guys. They do really, really good.
Wait, what is a picture car? Sorry, I'm
any vehicle used on screen.
A car
basically.
in a picture, Nathan.
Yeah, a picture of a car. Look on your phone.
Oh, you mean those
Prius
moving
picture
pictures.
car?
They're moving
Yeah,
pictures.
moving pictures.
Yeah.
So like I've got friends who do everything from the standard picture car stuff where you bring a car on the set, it plays, and then you take it away. And then I have friends that fabricate stuff. So like White House is down, that big drifting limousine. One of my friends built that thing. The crazy armored train truck thing from like Fast 8 or Fast 9 or whatever. One of my friends built that thing. The ramp cars, all the ones with the cages on the top, where the stunt guys driving on the top and the actors are down inside of it. Like it would be something neat to get into, but parallel to film industry, I would rather do that.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Because you can get all their money, but not be on their payroll. And you name your price too.
Yeah. And I imagine kind of because it sounds like basically anything to do with film, unless you're part of like a production company. For your job as an armorer, are you like part of a bigger company or are you freelance?
Basically freelance, but we're not 1099 as far as taxes. It's all W-2 or whatever. So each production is its own company. So you get hired for 3 months, then you're fired or laid off, basically.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it's kind of like getting work. Is it somewhat like an actor or anyone else in film who's not part of like a bigger entity? You're kind of like just like, is there a little bit of uncertainty between jobs? I mean, I'm sure not once you have enough things under your belt, but or is it?
Yeah. the more people you know, the more time you can take off.
Yeah.
Is what I say. Like if you have one friend who's in a hiring position, every time they call, you need to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're replaced.
Yeah.
And it's not like a mean thing. It's just like, cool, they need somebody to work, and if you can't show up, somebody else is going to be there.
Yeah, and if you're the
Yeah.
reliable guy,
So-
sweet. And if you're not,
Yeah. And then like maybe it's a big day where it's like the doing Civil War where we had 8 armors, you know. You go there and I'm not the head armor on that, but I'm there with 8 other people and they're also there with me. So there's been other shows where it's like, man, I need an additional person that day. Let me call one of the guys who was here with us while we were doing this.
yeah.
And it's all word of mouth. I've never been hired off of a resume. Like people may ask for like, okay, cool, we really want to work with you. Do you have a resume so we can give it to production so they have a record of it? But I've never been asked for a resume pre being hired
Mm.
because it's all word of mouth. Oh, Matt, he's a good worker. Or if I'm the third in the department, like prop master, assistant prop master, props assistant. Usually the prop master, assistant prop master, people from out of state that come in, and then the third would be the local. They say, okay, cool, we have a big day. Who are your friends? Where we need 6 extra prop people to go prop 400 background.
Huh.
So it's all word of mouth. There's no job application. There's no sitting in the union hall waiting for somebody to show up. It's like, be a good worker.
Yeah.
That
That
kind of
actually
goes for
tracks.
everything.
My brief time working in the industry was similar. I walked in off the street with a couple of pictures of things that I'd done in the past, and that turned into basically every contact I ever had before quitting to do this kind of shit.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, my first prop job was on The Walking Dead because I had been working with those guys there, and I heard there was a big day coming up where like there's like 400 background, and they all had guns and stuff. And I was like, hey, do y'all need an extra prop person who's competent with guns to come help out? And they're like, yeah, sure, you're union, right? I was like, yeah, I joined like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And boom, and those people are like the core people that I always call whenever I need somebody extra, whenever I'm in a hiring position, or they call me whenever they need help doing something that seems along
Yeah.
my path. You know, if it's gun stuff or like, okay, cool, it's airsofts and they need somebody that's more competent in that, they'll bring me in. If it's something where it's like more food related stuff, we had props people who are good with cooking and doing that. So everybody kind of has a specialty, but you need to be well rounded.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So like for, I'm sure there'll be a good handful of people listening to this who, might potentially be interested in trying to become some kind of film like armorer or prop master or whatever. But
No.
y'all can't see
No.
this, but Matt is shaking
No.
his head.
No, if you're listening to this podcast, don't.
Hey
If
man,
you're listening to this on not the Art and War podcast, maybe, but if you're listening to this on the Art and War podcast, don't.
Why not? Why not?
yeah, you were just listing out some. I mean, there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to every career path, but you were listing out some pretty sweet ones between pay and time off and stuff. But like, why not?
It's kind of like a. Well, don't get me wrong. It's a great thing. You know, they give you food, there's snacks, the pay's good, and there's benefits if you join the union because you have your insurance and everything gone through there. But you lose a lot of time. If you have family, you're really not going to be around them for whenever you're working, just because the hours, especially during the summertime, because you usually shoot daylight.
Mm.
So from 4 o'clock in the morning when you show up until 9 o'clock at night, you're at work. And there's no life outside of it. The people who you hang out with probably don't have the same thoughts or whatever as you. If you're listening to this podcast, most likely. But if you ride that nice little line where you can be friendly with everybody, you can go for it. The best thing is, like Nathan said, show somebody who's relevant something that you've done, especially if they're in a hiring position. Like right now, if you were to come show me something, I'll get cold emails and texts every once in a while. It's like, I'm not working right now. I'm not on a show currently. I can't really do anything to help you. I'll save your number, but I've never worked with you. The thing that got me into armoring stuff really was inviting the big armor in Atlanta to go shoot with me and showing competency.
Yeah.
Showing that, like, okay, cool, he's more than just a guy that says he shoots guns and shoots in his backyard with his granddaddy's 12 gauge,
Yeah. The bar for the average gun owner is very low.
Yeah. If you can show competency, be a good person, be able to communicate clearly, And it's almost like when you're looking for somebody to be a shooting instructor, like, cool, can they shoot? Can they communicate? Can they perform? And can they teach? Like, whatever all the aspects that everybody likes to talk about, you have to be extremely well-rounded. You could be a great shooter, but if you can't talk to people, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
We were doing one show where we were shooting in an actual shooting range, but shooting blanks. And it was like in the morning meeting, like, hey guys, just so you know, if you're pregnant or you're trying to become pregnant, don't go in there.
Yeah.
There's lead everywhere. It's not good for you. I've brought lead soaps. That way people that go in there can wash their hands. Don't use hand sanitizer, use soap. And most people aren't going to think about that. And that's the sort of stuff that sticks. And when people see that, they go, okay, cool. He's a person who we can trust.
Yeah, actually knows his shit, and most importantly, makes everyone feel safe when doing something that can, as we saw with the Rust incident, be dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. If you can stay calm and make it seem like it's not that big of a deal while still making it seem like it's that big of a deal, it's a good selling point. Because a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people are very one-sided or one way to do it. Like, okay, cool, they can only do the gun stuff, but they'll let somebody else kind of do the morning meeting talk. But if you can hit all the nails on the head, it's a fun job. You make good money. You meet a lot of people. You go a lot of places. But also chase your morale at the same time. They were still COVID testing, doing all this until like end of last year.
Yeah.
So you got to look at your beliefs and what your morals are too, which is a reason why I'm working on finding my way out of it.
Yeah.
I've drawn a line and they've started crossing over it. So
yeah, no, that's...
I'll take a job here and there if it comes, but I'd rather much be somewhere else.
That
it is very
fair.
you know, Hollywood media run by the trends of the day, unfortunately. So a lot of virtue signaling happens through Hollywood.
Oh yeah. And if you're okay with that, if you're going just for the money, do it. You can't beat it. You just got to be used to some hours. You got to be used to not sleeping. Especially you live nearby, it's a lot easier. I don't live nearby. I don't like the city. There's 4 red lights in my county. I don't like the city.
Yeah.
But if you're close and you can Uber to work, that's a lot better than you don't have to worry about it.
I remember visiting a friend down there. Actually, when I saw you, and 2 guys were shot right outside of his apartment. I think,
oh yeah.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, and also
Yeah.
what happened. I think he moved out shortly after that.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, and that was just like another day.
Oh yeah.
Living the dream down in Atlanta.
Easy, no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's different places in Atlanta you can walk around and you can see bullets, like projectiles on the ground from where people fire in the air, shooting at each other. Who knows? But they're just there. It's part of the landscape, just like cicadas right now.
Yeah.
Sick. Well, on that note, we're coming up to 2 hours. It really, really snuck up on us, this one. But,
yes, this went by really fast. I'm very interested on a personal level and otherwise about Hollywood and kind of the inner machinations of it. Filmmaking is one of my favorite art forms, so it was really good to finally get to fucking talk to you. I also appreciate you coming into the Discord and like talking to people about all this and just kind of shit
a
posting.
plug for the Sebring Art Discord. If you join their Patreon, you can see behind the scenes pictures that I post outside of my NDA. So
I like the shit that you got over the Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War things.
Instantly, everyone's
response,
like, "Oh, this
just
is
like,
the
go
guy."
Fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did you do Tomorrow War? Actually, yes. Here's the gun.
Yes.
Yeah. That was incredible rage bait.
I remember reaching out to like administrative results after he had posted his video. I was like, actually, it was this accessory, and I sent him the picture of it.
That's fucking awesome.
But that is a cool thing. Like sometimes you do get to like direct the conversation. Like George, the guy that works at the prop house.
I like George. Yeah,
all the guns
I
for
met him while we were down there.
Yeah, all like the guns for Triple Frontier that have all these weird, unique parts. They told him they wanted guns that looked like they were pieced together out of country, and that's what he built for them. So if you like the guns from that was George. You know, like sometimes the gun guys do get in there, and we are able to make some sort of creative change, but sometimes we can't.
Yeah. Tomorrow War.
Well, is there anything else you wanna plug or talk about or slip in before we start to get out of here, man?
I know you have a company that you started up.
I've got a company.
Absolutely not tax evasion.
Yeah, the company for reasons of tax evasion. I mean, they're not for tax evasion, Freudian slip. Simple Shirt, smplshirt.com. That's where I'm schizophrenic and I post shirts. Haven't posted one in a while, but if you want one, it's there. I'll put up a coupon code for Seaburn art or something. Have fun.
Hell yeah. Is the shirt you're wearing?
I've helped you with a couple of those designs. They're just fun. They're cute.
Yeah, the shirt I'm wearing, Crime Kinda Pays, that's one of them.
Very based.
The company's also a way for me to get t-shirts replenished at dealer prices.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just made that company for yourself so you could get your
own.
own.
I've got like 30 shirts for myself just because I don't like buying shirts from other people.
Yeah.
But like in realism, like Matt Czarnowsky's my Instagram, and I'm working on trying to do a YouTube thing, multi-shop Matt, because I do a lot of building. And
I really enjoy
things.
your content on that.
Yeah, not a lot there now. We just built a garage here at the house, so hopefully more stuff's to come. But multi-shop Matt, that's kind of where I'm going to be doing any of my cool things. But realistically, Matt Czarnowsky is my personal page. Feel free to harass me as much as you want to.
The spelling is complicated. It will be in the episode description.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll see it there. But other than that, I don't do much. I wish I wasn't on social media, but here I am.
We feel the same way, and yet... Yeah, the need to spread propaganda into the minds of the young is ever present. However, also being on social media, I'd rather be outside my cabin splitting logs and pretending the internet doesn't exist. But alas.
Oh yeah, exactly. I yearn for the day where I can just live on a Nokia 3310 for emergencies.
The duality of man.
I think my first cell phone was like a Siemens A535 or something like that. I'm probably
is
just
that Canada only?
Yeah, what the fuck is?
Yeah, that's not an American or a British thing.
Yeah, it was weird. It was even for I was living overseas at the time, and it was basically like the early mobile phones you had in your house that sat on a charger. It was that. It was.
Did you wear it on a? Did you wear it on a satchel?
I did not wear it on a satchel. It was in my pocket, and as a 12-year-old, it was very large.
Like half your body weight.
Yeah. Well, the cool kids had Nokias. I had this fucking thing.
It gets you over victim weight, so you're good.
Yeah.
Conceal carry and a brick phone.
Oh, dude, that thing was a weapon. I miss it.
Return to brick phones.
Return to brick
phone.
phone.
eBay exists. What's stopping you?
True. I'll get rid of my shitty iPhone 11. That is... God, this thing's a thing.
Oh, yeah, people still support it. We had working pagers on Black Mafia Family, and there's a company that does pager support and has service for them.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm sure you can get service for your brick phone.
That's fucking awesome.
Well, anyway, Matt, before we head out, we have one last thing to ask of you, which is dad advice for the listeners.
Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a fan of the show and I plan for this every single time that I listen to it. But here we go. Back seats lead to car seats. So the Corvette's going to be cheaper in the long run, but you're not going to get anywhere near the enjoyment and fulfillment out of having a family. So go forth, reproduce, and then teach your kids how to build a Corvette.
Based. Super based.
Boom.
Excellent. Man fucking crushed it. All right. No.
Like I said, I haven't been planning that for 140 episodes.
Hell yeah. No, massively appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and being a listener, man. It's really cool.
Way
to hear.
overdue.
Yeah, really cool to hear all the various experiences and people we have kind of dotted in all sorts of industries and places. It's we got shooters in all sorts of interesting places.
Oh yeah.
But with access to people like Robert Downey Jr., we can
radicalize Robert Downey Jr.
You're 1 degree closer to the elite now. You're welcome.
Yeah. We need an activation phrase. But
like I'm old enough that they're not going to take my adrenochrome. I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, we just make an activation phrase that they're too scared to say because they get canceled.
God damn it!
Episode just cuts.
There we go. That was the episode. Cuts right there.
Yeah, play outro music. All right. Well, God damn it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt. I'm gonna cut this off as soon as we can before Nathan starts saying things I don't want him to.
The gamer word.
The gamer word.
The gamer word.
God damn it, don't say it joyfully. Alright, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.